This is your boy DJ Leon D, and on this channel we talk about travel, money, and lots of cooking. Three things I know quite a bit about. I'm not an expert at anything. Nope, not an expert. I just been around a long time and know a lot. Let's get it on. Now this is your boy DJ Leon D. I'm back on the air. I'm telling you some things, but today we're gonna talk about ribs. How you do ribs right? Because I've been to your house, I tasted your food, and I didn't taste it very much, and I noticed that your ribs was not done properly. Here's something that you got to do. You know, with ribs, there are a lot of do's and don'ts, and some of you do a lot of don'ts, obviously, all the time. So you got to do it right, and if you do it right, people would come back. Now, ribs is very, very important to me because they're very important because I do a lot of ribs all the time. Yeah, between ribs, chicken, and hamburgers, homemade hamburgers, I do a lot of those, and people brag about them. I'm talking about not just to me. Now, when I say ribs, I don't do baby back ribs very often. Matter of fact, it's been years since I've ever smoked baby back ribs. I always do St. Louis style ribs. It's a big difference in the taste. It's a big difference in how you do them. But the do's and don'ts are the exact same for both of them. Now, I say that because ribs are low and slow. You gotta cook them between 225 and 250 degrees at the most. But normally I smoke them at 185. I smoke them to get that nice bark to it then. I give them a nice bark. And a lot of people know what the bark is. It's the top part of the rib to about maybe 1/8 of the rib. I like that to be just black as hell. Yeah, I like it to be black as hell. But the key to cooking ribs, I'm gonna tell you the do's first. Low and slow, accept that. That's what they are. You gotta have a consistent temperature. Now, that's where my timberline and my ironwood comes in handy at. Now, the Pro 34 triggers can come in handy as well. But the problem with the Pro 34 is that it cooks one side higher than the other side. It's a very noticeable difference in how you do them. And the seasoning is the one thing you gotta do. And you want to use indirect heat. You cannot put the ribs directly over the fire. You want the fire to circulate like on a Traeger, timberline, or ironwood. You want the fire to circulate so that all the ribs or each bone is the same temperature. You got to have that. And, you know, you got to spritz the ribs. If you don't spritz, you got a problem. Some of you don't know what spritz is. That means putting some apple juice with apple vinegar, apple cider vinegar in it. You got to do all that kind of stuff. And now, depending upon who's coming over, I will wrap the ribs. Oh yeah, I will wrap the ribs depending on who's coming over. If I got friends I like, I wrap. I got friends I don't. You know, friends I don't like, I don't wrap. And so some people think that the 3-2-1 method works. And you know, you got 3 hours of smoking, 2 hours of wrap, 1 hour to unwrap. That works if you're new or novice to cooking ribs. That works. But the key thing you got to do though, let it rest. But before you let it rest, you got to put a thermometer in the ribs to see if you're done. If they're not at 205 or between 195 and 205, I'm not taking the ribs off. And the reason they give you between 195 and 205, the reason they give you that, because they want you to make sure your ribs are ready. And see, if you got a smoker that doesn't cook equally around, like the Pro 34, then you got to go and you got to put a thermometer in them to see if they're ready. Now, let me tell you some don'ts. Those are the do's. You got about 8 do's that you must do when it comes to ribs. But you got about 6 don'ts that will fuck your ribs up. And believe me, a professional barbecueologist like myself will notice, no matter how much sauce you put on them to try and hide your mistakes. People put a lot of sauce on them to hide their mistakes. I don't sauce mine at all. No, I let you put the sauce that you want on it because I don't know your palate. And some people like a lot of sauce. I always think of a lot of sauces, condiments that you're trying to hide something. When I say condiments, for those you don't know, I'm talking about ketchup. I'm talking about, stuff like barbecue sauce, because you're trying to hide something, but I'm going to figure it out anyway. I tell people, give me my ribs raw. I will add to them what I want to add to them. But I'm not the kind of person that you're going to just put a lot of sauce on it and say, here you go. No, you should never sauce anybody's ribs. Let them sauce their own ribs, because some people like it vinegary. Some people like it, sweet and sticky. Everybody's different. I'm not mad at anybody whose taste buds is different than mine. I'm not mad at any of them. So that's why I tell people, give it to me raw, and I'll add what I want to add. If you go to any barbecue place, they put the sauce on the side. If they don't put the sauce on the side, it's because they bought it with the sauce already on it. Like you go to Costco, some ribs are already seasoned. No, I want to season my own. That's just me. I can't say some people don't want to do the work, because, it is what it is. And you may say, hey, I don't want to do any of the work. Costco already did it. So you're fine with that. No, because I like using my own seasoning. That's one of the reasons that I don't want somebody else seasoning my ribs for me. Now, let's go over the don'ts. Don't over smoke, because it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. You don't want all that black smoke coming out and on your ribs. It's going to leave a taste in your mouth. Now, don't put ribs ever, ever, ever over direct flame. No. Put it indirect so it circulates and all the meats get cooked the same temperature at the same time. Okay? And here's the biggest problem. One of the biggest problems I have with people who do ribs. They open the fire all the damn time. Don't open. Let it sit there, because when you open it, the temperature goes down. It has to come back up. But don't open it too often, though, because put a thermometer in the ribs, and then you can sit back on your couch and look at your game or whatever you're going to do, and you can see the difference in the temperature as the ribs get warmer. Yeah, so don't open it too many times, and definitely don't over seasoning your rib. People over seasoning ribs all the damn time. Now, I'm a fan of seasoning. Don't get me wrong. And I don't think there can be a thing as too much seasoning. I really don't. But just don't just don't over season it all the time with stuff you never tried yourself. All my seasonings, I try myself dry, with nothing on my tongue. I wash my mouth, brush my teeth. I try it out. If I like it, I use it. If I don't, I don't. Okay? Now, don't put the glaze on too early. I don't put my glaze on, and when I say glaze, I'm talking about barbecue sauce and other things. I don't put that on until I got about 30 minutes left. If you got a temperature monitor, when you get about 185, that you get about 30 minutes left on a decent smoker. And now it's time to glaze them up. Put your barbecue sauce on them, do what you're going to do. But don't be doing an hour out, because it's just going to add more black char to it. I already got my char when I first started, and I smoked them. That gave me my char already. I don't need to add more char to it. That's just, common sense to me. But to a lot of people, it's not common sense. Now, here is the biggest thing that I see, the biggest mistake I see. Actually, it's 2 big mistakes that everybody make. I'm going to tell you about the first one first. You cannot take ribs out of the refrigerator and put them on the smoker. No. I season my ribs and they sit for 3 hours up to 2 days. Yep, 3 hours to 2 days. I might let them sit for a day or two. It all depends. And I like the look of them when I let them sit there and see that pretty red or black color on them. I like that. So a lot of people don't do any of that kind of stuff. But you cannot sit there and go from the freezer to the smoker. You can't do it and not have decent tasting ribs. And now when people say decent tasting, a lot of times that's because that somebody they know, somebody they like is coming over and they don't have quality assurance tests. I always have a quality assurance test. I test out the ribs myself before I give them to my company. If I got friends coming over, I'm going to try them out. And I'm going to try them out before I serve them to you. It's not right if I serve them to you and I've not did my own homework, my due diligence. It's not right. And I know personally that it's not a good rib. And so I'm not going to give it to you. Some people are going to give it to you no matter what the hell you do. That's some people. So that's number one. But the most important thing you can do on ribs or not do on ribs is pull off the membrane. In this video, you're going to see me prepping ribs. You're going to see me seasoning ribs. And I use a lot of mustard as a binder. I use a lot as a binder. But I do all that after I pull off the membrane. And people say, well, I don't need to put my membrane off. My ribs good. No, they're not. They're tough on the last bite. They are very tough on the last bite. So I'm trying to sit here how to tell you how to do this right. And sometimes I get frustrated because the same people make the same mistakes. They do the same thing every time the exact same way. And if you do that, that's called insanity. You got to change up. Take your ribs. Once you pull off the membrane, I clean them again. Oh yeah, I clean them again. This video just showed me putting the membrane off, prepping the ribs, and putting a lot of mustard on them. People, the mustard is not going to be in the taste of your rib when you finish. It's going to burn off. It's just strictly a binder, but you got to get the membrane off. The membrane has to be pulled off with tweezers, pliers. I don't care how you do it, but it's got to be pulled off. If you don't pull the membrane off, then you got a problem all by itself. Because the last bite, now you may want to give your teeth an exercise test to see if they fall out or not. With the membrane on, you're doing just that. Your teeth is saying, whoa, that was a workout. You don't enjoy the food. And when I go down south, they don't pull off shit. They don't pull off nothing. That's their way. They take a slab of ribs, put it on a smoker or grill or whatever you call it, and they just let it go. No, the membrane don't burn off by itself. You got to pull it off, and it's tough pulling it off. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work pulling the membrane off, but you got to do that though, because the rib is a lot more enjoyable when your teeth can just bite through, and it's all gone, all gone. It's just a lot easier for you and for everybody else, especially young kids. You don't want no kid turning your rib left and right, trying to bite through it because the membrane is still there. The membrane becomes harder to take off. It becomes harder to bite through when you cook it than if you just took it off from the very beginning. Yeah, the membrane is a workout. So you can't sit there and worry about that. Now, for those of you who want something simple, use the 3-2-1 method. Use the 3-2-1 method. Just go ahead and smoke it for 3 hours, wrap it for 2, and use the last hour to put it back on the grill. That's the 3-2-1 method. I call that the lazy man way of doing things. So that's how the ribs are done. And then, like I said, I don't mess with baby backs. Some people do. But also when they say trim the silver or take off the membrane, that's the exact same thing. That's the exact same thing. And I like ribs taste a lot better to me with smoking wood than it does any anywhere else. And the seasoning is definitely going to make a difference. Low and slow, and your fire got to stay at a certain temperature. If you decide you're going to do yours at 250, I'm fine with that. I do mine at 225, and then maybe the last hour or so, I may crank it up to 250, 275, normally 250, the last hour or so, So I'm telling you this because a lot of you put sauce on raw ribs. I don't do that. I don't do that, and I don't worry about time for temperature. And here's one thing that really, really bothers me. When people tell me I got fall off the bone ribs. If your ribs fall off the bone, that means they are overcooked. They are overcooked. You should be able to pick up a slab, bends about 45 to 90 degrees, which is great, but they should not see the bones falling off. And you say I got fall off the bone ribs, you just told me and everybody else your ribs are overdone. Now, a lot of people think that means you did something great because it fell off the bones. Yeah. You did something great. You overcooked the hell out of the ribs. You overcooked the ribs. So you don't want to overcook because that's not good either. That's almost like mushy ribs when you overcook. Those are mushy ribs. What you don't want to do is have your ribs to a point where you pick it up with tongues and they're falling off. No. If you measure the temperature, you get around 195 to 205, your ribs are done. Your ribs are done. When you go beyond that, 230, 235, your ribs the bones are gonna come right out. And some people like the bones coming right out. I can't stand that. And I don't want you barbecuing sauce or putting sauce on my ribs. I do that. I will do that myself. I don't want you doing none of that. I don't want you ever saucing my ribs up. I got what I need. And a lot of times I make homemade sauce that I bring myself because I want I want a certain profile. You may not want that profile. I'm fine with that, but I want that profile. So when you think about cooking ribs, like I said, I don't use all mine are smoked. So that's just me. All mine are smoked. And then you got spare ribs. And spare ribs are good. You got baby back ribs, spare ribs, and St. Louis style ribs. I do not mess around with baby back ribs. I've never liked them, never wanted them, never bought them. And see, I like using wood, whether it's cherry, hickory, pecan, oak, grapevine, mesquite. Okay, I'm all good. You take the membrane off and you're going to taste that particular wood you're trying to use. You're going to taste that in your food as long as it goes slow. If it goes fast, then it's different. That's a different ball game. But seasoning and giving it time and removing the membrane makes a huge difference in your ribs and how they're going to taste at the end of the day. And your friends are going to like it. What this video is about is to make sure you got friends who eat your food. And now I can tell you how to make any side in the world. I make great sides from potato salad down to my famous baked beans. I can make all that. That's not a problem. Okay? So this is your boy DJ Leon D saying, hey, this is how you do St. Louis style ribs. And I'll give you another video on how you do spare ribs. I would never give you a video how you do baby back ribs because I don't do those. I don't eat those. And because the flavor profile is totally different. Baby back versus St. Louis versus spare ribs. They are a whole different family, same family. A rib is a rib. How you prepare the rib is not what you want it to do. Okay, this is your boy DJ Leon D. I'm out.